Welcome to our 6th session in our webinar series called the Manifesto Sessions. I'm Sian Roberts, Barrod's Operations Manager, and I'll be your chair for today's session. So our topic today is about involving young people at the heart of service design and delivery. We want young people with lived and living experience of substance use to be at the heart of the design and delivery of young person services. When young people are part of this process, the evidence suggests it has enabled young people to develop a wide range of new skills in communication, leadership and professionalism, as well as highlighting how youth involvement in co-designing and co-delivery of services aimed at this age group can improve and ensure relevance, credibility and quality. We are joined today by Angharad Williams, the team leader of Barrod's Young Person Services in Swansea, and Hannah Keating, the service manager of our Young Person Services in Gwent, along with Rin, one of our volunteers. Three of these wonderful speakers are going to be telling you how Barrod have involved young people in our work. So I'll first hand you over to Hannah and Rin.
So my name's Hannah Keating, as Sian just introduced, and I am the service manager for Gwent, N-Gage and GDAFs. So Gwent N-Gage is the young person's drug and alcohol service, obviously covering the whole of Gwent. And GDAFs is our Gwent drug and alcohol family team. So they support concerned others in the area around other people's substance use. And I've got my colleague Rin here. They are a current volunteer for N-Gage and one of our founding YAS members, which I will talk a little bit about in our presentation going forward. So just to start off a little bit, just wanted to obviously talk about how important the service user voice is within our services. Obviously, it's all about person-centred care and improving quality within services. And there is plenty of policy and legislation in place to underpin this within Wales. So just wanted to touch a little bit about some of those policies and legislations in place. So we've got the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, which affirms that every child's right to express their views in everything relating to them should be freely listened to and respected, and that ultimately all young people should be actively involved in decisions made around their own care and the services that they receive. Then we move on to the Social Services and Wellbeing Wales Act 2014. And again, this reinforces the importance of service user voice, and it places legal duty on local authorities and services to promote the voice and control of young people and also promote co-production. So I think the main kind of part around that is to ensure that it's moving away more so from a one-size-fits-all service to that it's going to fit for everybody and making it more kind of relevant to each individual on their own. And then we've got the trauma and ACE-informed practice. So Barrod is obviously, I think we're quite well aware of all the trauma and ACE-informed practice. We've got a working group that we meet regularly to make sure that we are kind of trauma and ACE-informed within the services. And I think obviously around that, it's about recognising how adverse childhood experiences and trauma can affect how an individual might engage in services. And be able to trust those services and the people working within those services. So we need to be able to create a safe and empowering environment where young people feel heard and respected, and that they can build up resilience as well as part of that. And then kind of underpinning all that within a substance use service perspective, there is the Welsh Government Substance Use Core Standards. And this builds on everything kind of that I've already mentioned to make sure that substance use services across Wales are involving people with lived experience to actively be involved in the design and delivery of services, and making sure that we're being responsive to service user needs, experiences and their goals moving forward as well. So just to kind of speak a little bit about some of the key themes then that can be pulled from the legislation and the policies, it's all about obviously service user voice, and in particular for us from a young person's perspective, it's about empowering young people to be involved in the care that they receive. Obviously all around young person's choice and their autonomy and shared their involvement in shared decision making, which is vital, and obviously we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go along. Collaboration then, so partnership working with those who use the services, and not just service users but other opportunities to network with other services and other professionals that might be involved. And then obviously at the heart of all Barod services, and obviously particularly from an N-Gage perspective, it's about placing the young person at the heart of the service and ensuring their well-being. We're looking after their well-being and meeting their needs. So just a little bit about Barod's approach. So over the last few years, we've recognised the need and the desire of young people to be involved in how harm reduction services are run and developed and delivered. So subsequently, as a result, obviously I'm discussing from a Gwent perspective, but from a whole Barod perspective, from a young person services, we've established forums that we can make sure that we're involving young people, making sure they have a voice and they're able to express their ideas, to make sure that services are fair, they're appropriate and they're relevant as much as possible going forward. So what are we doing from a Gwent perspective, or what have we been doing? So I'll just briefly introduce you to our Youth Ambassador service. So Rin is going to talk a little bit more about this, as they've been involved in it from the start. So about 2 years ago, we established the Youth Ambassador service, which I'll refer to as YAS throughout the presentation. And basically, previously Gwent N-Gage would kind of be more of an ad hoc consultation, use more of an ad hoc consultation stage with young people, where, for instance, if we had a leaflet that we had developed, we would generally probably do that more so as part of the team. We'd have a task and finish group that would work together to put together a leaflet on something that we were maybe seeing, like, for instance, solvents. We would put that together, print it off, and then ask all our workers in some form to go out and obviously consult with young people as and when that was needed, which was great. Obviously, we had plenty of feedback, and it was a really good way of gaining consultation and engagement. But we kind of realised we needed more of an ongoing fluid approach to that consultation. So we wanted to make it more consistent with service development and delivery, and something that it was an ongoing focus, just as part of the whole of the service. So YAS was developed, like I said, around 2 years ago, and it's basically a group of young people that might be working with N-Gage. So it's accessible to anybody who's working with N-Gage or who has previously worked with N-Gage to come along. They meet once a month to look at things like regular group and peer support. So I know they've been a really great way of kind of talking to each other, seeing how things are going for each other. So they've linked in really well as a group and became friends, which is really positive. Looking at individual skills focus as well. So obviously looking at the differences that each young person is bringing to the group, looking at what they would like to develop on and working on that. And then as part of that, we pulled together a programme of learning then as well. So we would, in each session, look at doing things like covering harm reduction, looking at supporting others, definitely things then like we would do as staff members, looking at boundaries, confidentiality, safeguarding, and then obviously additional sessions then would be built on what we were finding the young ambassadors wanted to look at. So, for example, as Rin will talk a little bit about in a bit, we have young people sit on, from our YAS group, sit on interview panels. So if that was coming up and one of the YAS were going to be sitting on the panel, we would look at doing a session on prep for that interview panel and kind of the things they needed to learn about and things they needed to be involved in, and just make sure they felt comfortable and confident in delivering, in sitting on that panel. So all these different sessions then would look at some of the things that we're going to talk about now with Rin. So I will pass you over to Rin, who's going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that YAS will get involved in as part of Gwent N-Gage.
All right, so as you can see on the board, YAS has been a part of several projects since it started up about 2 years ago, and I'm going to talk over only a few of these. So we have been a part of the Mike Perry Art Awards, where we as a group wanted to create a design that showcased all of the struggles that people go through and the things that people enjoy, and how it can affect everyone, no matter the differences in us as a people. This can be seen on the bottom left. We were a part of the website working group. One of the YAS members worked towards helping N-Gage design their website. a podcast episode. I sat with Rob and Sarah on Barrod's Drugs Unwrapped podcast and talked about my personal experience of cannabis and the effects and the consequences of it. We were working on designing the logo and the leaflet. As a part of the group, we worked towards picking styles, layouts, fonts, and information to go on the leaflet and the logo for YAS itself. We also worked on the mood board for the drop-in itself to sort of redecorate it.
And just to kind of go back a little bit with some of the other things that have been developed, Rin has been part of many of these things, but yeah, we're really proud of some of the stuff that they've been involved in, as you can see. So I'm just going to pass you back to Rin, who's going to tell you a little bit more about some of the benefits that they have found being part of the YAS group.
So yeah, again, as you can see, that there's a lot of benefits that we found are good with YAS, but I'm just going to talk over a few of them. So one of these is future job references. People who go through YAS can put their involvement with the service onto their CVs and use N-Gage part of Barrod as a reference on their CVs. Preparation for more structured volunteering and or employment. YAS members get used to being around staff members, learn about boundaries and safeguarding, and are able to participate in group projects and activities. Some young people move on to work or, like me, can have opportunities to volunteer. And then skills development, including communication, working as a team, consultation, and so much more. These are things that YAS aim to help all young people involved to grow as they attend sessions. And something I personally felt was such an impact was it was something to be proud about.
Thank you, Rin. So yeah, lots and lots of benefits that we see as part of you know, being involved in the YAS, being involved in service user design and delivery. Rin's been a vital part of that, and is an ongoing approach now is for Rin to kind of move forward and be kind of our lead with the YAS group, which is great because obviously, you know, they've been there from the start. So yeah, we're really, really proud of the YAS group. So thank you for that, Rin. So just another aspect then that not just the YAS group, but other young people have been involved in was the Gwent Young Person Service recommissioning. So just over 2 years ago, the Young Person Service in Gwent was recommissioned. So service providers were able to tender for the contract. And as part of that, a number of questions were handed over to us that we needed to work really hard on and look at how we could support the bid for, you know, continuing with our N-Gage service going forwards for the next 10 years. So one of the questions that came up was, what are the challenges young people under the age of 18 currently face? So straight away, obviously, we saw the question, and our previous service manager basically just, you know, said that we need to pass this over, obviously with support to our young people to get their kind of views on it, to make it more authentic and give them the opportunity to answer this question. So we handed it over to young people across Gwent via a range of different ways and support groups, so that we could capture kind of everything that they were saying and look at obviously sharing that information with everybody as much as possible with minimal editing from staff. So who did we involve? So obviously we definitely involved our YAS group, our youth ambassadors, who were one of our main sources of information. So we scheduled a few sessions to look at this question and gain some feedback from the youth ambassadors who worked together to provide that feedback. Schools across the borough were involved in different ways. So we run drop-ins as part of our engagement team, and young people come along to engage with the engagement workers, and as part of that, our workers would ask that question and gain some feedback either individually from those young people or as a group if they were coming in as a group. Targeted workshops was another way. So if we were going in and doing workshops for young people, we would obviously use that question, and we did actually schedule a few different workshops to just solely focus on that question, which was really beneficial. Then we've got individual one-to-one appointments as well. So obviously where appropriate, caseworkers would go into their appointments with this question as part of this the session and look at this question with an individual young person to gain some feedback in that way. And we did that with general young people who were being working with caseworkers. We also worked with Transitions, which is our 18 to 21-year-old service, and they were able to reflect back on what they saw as main challenges when they were under 18, under 18, and obviously our GDAFs team as well, so the family service. And we had young people as part of that service, obviously feed into the recommissioning question as well. What did we find as part of that? So young people today face a wide range of challenges, and obviously this was a couple of years ago now, but I'm pretty sure from us talking to young people as an ongoing theme that lots of these challenges are the same now. So we found that things like stigma for young people was a big thing. Boredom was huge, not having much to do within the areas of where they were living, things being closed down, as we all know, contracts and things being pulled for services, so a lack of things to do, and then things like poor mental health support service, linking to services, lots of waiting lists in place, which is unhelpful for young people. So lots, and punishment and support versus support as well was another big thing that came up as part of that. So rather than being offered support by school, did come up a little bit in that, it was more just being excluded and left to their own kind of devices rather than having elements of support. So what we found obviously then by involving young people, that a needs-led approach is essential to help them overcome the challenges and reach their full potential, so they're healthy, happy and thriving. A common theme among all young people consulted was that it was important to have a safe space where they feel listened to and have a voice, and I think that's where that works really well within our youth ambassadors group, that it is a safe space. And I think, Rin, you can vouch for it, being somewhere where you feel like you can talk about things and be listened to. We continue to make the young person's voice central to all of our work where possible, involving everybody as much as possible across the boards via some of the ways I mentioned just a few minutes ago. And we also aim to create a safe environment that allows young people to express themselves fully and take ownership of their support needs. And then just to touch briefly on some of the benefits of involving young people in service delivery and design. So obviously there's benefits to the organisation for Barod as a whole. I think it creates a much more effective and trusted service for everybody accessing the service, not just young people, but obviously adult-based services as well. And it meets real people's real needs. Hopefully it improves outcomes. Obviously we're hearing on the ground kind of what needs to be done. So we can work with that and hopefully reduce dropout of services and improve engagement in services. And I think that obviously impacts then as well on the organisation culture as well, with regards to be able to reflect and collaborate on these things with the people that kind of matter within the service. It builds confidence for the organisation and trust for others coming into service. More dynamic, it shows that we're more dynamic and responsive to needs, which I think is vital, that we're keeping up to date with trends, particularly in the substance use field. And obviously some of the policies and legislations that I mentioned earlier, we need to be aligning with that. So I think obviously involving young people in this as much as possible, we are doing that. And I think it just strengthens the organisation's impact overall. And then as a service, obviously there's plenty of benefits, and from a Gwent N-Gage perspective, we see this all, as we go on. I think it's making the service more accessible to young people, more relevant to what's going on out there. We can keep an eye on all the trends and hear from people who are experiencing that day to day. Young people involved are able to identify any barriers to engagement, so we can work using our information work to hopefully prevent those barriers and move forward to make sure engagement is better. The service then remains relevant and effective. Like I said, we're keeping up to date with current trends, so we're making sure we're listening to what's on the ground and moving forward with that. We're using lived experience to inform our interventions, so making sure that what we're using to work with young people is effective and worth doing. Make sure that, and as a service, we are continuing to improve and adapt to everything that's new and what's going on. Challenging stigma by being fair and inclusive. And then obviously another big thing is for us is creating volunteers like Rin, and peer mentors, and maybe potential staff coming forward in the future, you know, that have already been there and done a lot of this type of work, and, you know, just gives them confidence to go forward with that. And I think co-production does enhance reputation and partnership working as a whole anyway, and it shows the service is always evolving. And then just benefits to the person or individual, depending on which service we're working in. Obviously, I think there's loads of benefits to young people being involved in the design and delivery of the service. So obviously there's skills development, which we spoke a little bit about and Ren mentioned, is being able to develop as a person and as a worker moving forward, becoming involved in more things like communication, being able to look at decision making and leadership skills, and then using their own voice to kind of create a service as a whole, and feeling empowered as a young person to kind of be involved in those changes. And obviously I think influence and change then does build on confidence and self-belief as well, and fosters inclusion, and ensures well-being of a young person is kind of looked at, and we're continuing to check in and make sure that they're okay. They can advocate to challenge stereotypes as part of being involved in change making in the service. And obviously, as we've already mentioned, the progression that a young person can become involved in, making them shaping their futures to obviously hopefully be involved in services like we deliver. So yeah, I think it's just a massive benefit to organisations, services and individuals, particularly young people, for us. So what do we want then from a Barrow perspective with regards to our manifesto? So we want young people with lived and living experience of substance use to be at the heart of the design and delivery of young person services. We call on area planning boards across Wales to include young people with lived or living experience of substance use within service design, development, delivery, monitoring and evaluation of young person services. And we also call on Welsh Government to include young people with experience of substance use to be included in consultation exercises related to the development of frameworks, strategies and policies that directly affect them. And I think as a whole, from a Gwent N-Gage perspective, we are doing as much as we can, but obviously there's still more that can be done from a APB perspective and a Welsh Government perspective as well. And I think we are done. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hannah and Rin. Lots of food for thought there, and I can see that we've got several questions in the chat for you guys, which we'll ask you at the end. So thank you for now. We're going to move now on to Angharad. Angharad, if you can join us and share your presentation, and then we'll regroup at the end for questions.
Fabulous. Okay, I hope you can see everything clearly. Hello, my name is Angharad Williams. I'm the team leader for Barrows Young Person Service Choices here in Swansea. I've been employed by Barrow for 7 years and have worked with children and young people for just over 13 years now. So I have a background in early years education, play work through the medium of Welsh. I've worked with the local authority youth service and within residential care settings. So I'm someone who's really passionate about supporting young people and ensuring they have their voices heard and that they're fully aware of their rights. So this led to the development of the first Wales Young Person Substance Youth Group that has expanded across the organisation in each of the areas, and chair of the Staff Young Persons Working Group, ensuring young people are at the centre of our service delivery and design. So I'll be taking you through today how we incorporated young person participation through the development of our recently launched Young Persons app. So where it all began was very much with the ongoing social media trend we see for young people, and this being a huge source of information. Discussions were taking place how we target our young person audience via our current digital platforms. So with the Young Persons Barod website currently being reviewed, we addressed if we should take it forward to young people before that further development and see what they'd like to see and experience. So we took that forward, and there was feedback from young people across the board where they wanted something that a little bit more interactive, something less informal, and something more like an app. So we took this forward to area commissioners to raise an opportunity of development, and were successful with funding from a range of areas, and how we can expand on supporting a young person-centred information platform via a digital tool moving forward in a completely new way for us as well, really, within Barod. So we did some shopping, some research, and that's digital shop in mind, with some app developers. And this then led to our consultation meetings. So within the first stage consultation, I was assigned as the project lead, with support from our Director of Operations, Hugh Thomas, and we started sharing ideas, setting the budget, setting that timescale and what we felt should be on the app design from an organisational perspective. This then led to the planning designs of things such as research, looking at any potential competitors, and then reaching out to young people for consultations, their interest, their reviews, what they're currently using as an app platform, and how we can use sort of similar designs, and what approach of technology exactly did they want, very much what did this look like from them. Is it something that's even possible for us to achieve, or is it going to be challenging in the sense of we're looking at developing a substance awareness app for young people? What barriers might we face, and how we challenge them with the young people accessing our service? So our actions were set for more young person discussions, and a comparison of ideas, with setting the clear understanding of the purpose of the app, and continuing building relationships then with the app developers that we were working with. So this then led on to the first digital discussion of creating buttons. So you might be thinking, buttons, what are buttons? So buttons are the different functions within an app that navigate you through that platform. So arrangements were made with multiple young people across the area, in particular our Swansea Young Persons Group, Ffordd Pobl Ifanc, in addition to young people across Barod accessing services and youth forums such as YAS in N-Gage. So we took it to them and asked the questions such as, if you could design an app for young people, what exactly would it look like? And as the image says, is displayed on the screen, you can see that young people said things such as they want to know the effects of substances. They want to be aware of overdose awareness that comes with these substances. They want more harm reduction messages. They want a live chat function and things like that, and just so much more. So we had so many wonderful ideas from so many young people across the organisation. We needed to break this down then into sort of 5 elements of the app, which was the 5 buttons called, which we named them Need Help Now, the My Space section, the substance information, the games element, and then the chat function. So we took all this information and this feedback from young people, and we took it forward to the app developers, and design meetings then started taking place. So after a period of time, because developing an app isn't a speedy process, it does take some time and lots of planning. So with the communication behind that, the content meetings, we were pleased to see the design taking place. and what the app was actually starting to look like. Okay, so there's some images of the screen of how the app looked. So we developed a design of interactive tools on the app for young people to navigate through, recording how often they've used a substance alongside their feelings and their emotions, and it would display a sort of a graph, and then we'd have the recording of how much of a substance they've used and much more. And I remember sort of when this first design was shared with us from the app developers, you know, sitting there, you know, really proud. Yes, you know, we've done this. This is brilliant. This is something so new, so exciting. So we were ready to share this with the young people of what this design looked like. We took it forward. Okay. So bearing in mind, we had all this information from their ideas. We took it forward to the young people. And the response from the young people was a little bit different. Their response was very much, it looks quite old, it was difficult to navigate, there were too many questions, and they felt like it was more of an assessment than an interactive tool, even down to the colour. And I remember sitting there and thinking, okay, that's not what I expected, but okay, absolutely. And I remember saying to some of the young people, you sure it's not just the colours? If the colours change maybe, and they were like, nope, you know, there's so many elements of it that's just too much. You know, I remember a young person even saying, you know, Barod is pink, not blue. And that I was there and I was thinking, yep, good observations, you are totally right. So this was a bit of a change in sort of the celebration of us getting this right. So this then led to going back to the drawing board, okay? And quite literally, as you can see on the screen, this is what the drawing board of developing an app looks like, okay? So we had such a positive relationship with the app developers. We had full access to the Figma platform where we could add additional comments, responses, and we could show this platform to the young people. So we could show them this actual drawing board, essentially, and add those young persons' comments and quotes as it was sort of live and being developed in the background. So an additional meeting took place with the app developers then, and I provided that young person feedback and just explained more in context. And they were so understanding and wanted the same achievement as us in, you know, we want to make sure we're getting this right for young people. So we took a step back and we reviewed the current response, gained some more feedback as well, and we reviewed the young person consultation prior to the designs and kind of started a little bit again, okay? So we went back to the buttons function then, okay, and we made some changes. So we amended some functions such as the diary element. So this was to continue with the feelings element that was in sort of the first stage, but removing the substance recording from that because the feedback was it was quite bulky, lots of questions. So we started inputting the option of images for each day of the week to support with well-being alongside a free text box journal element then, okay? Other ideas we shared that were from the young people was about that community chat function. So this was a peer function on the app that we wanted to use where young people could talk to each other if they've downloaded the app and support each other as part of their journey if they're wanting to gain even more information, or for anyone who's, say, making a change and they just need that additional peer support. We then amended the button element of sort of the goals. So we set this as drop-down options rather than having to sort of look up different substances. And one big thing that was fed back from young people was they like the fact when they're being supported by Barod that they understand the difference between a lapse and a relapse. So we thought, well, could we put something like this in the app for when somebody is setting a goal? Could they start a goal, stop a goal, but can they also actually pause that goal if they've had a slight sort of hiccup, a slight lapse in sort of a change to the goal setting, and then going back to it. So this is something we looked at and communicated with the app developers about inputting on the app, alongside the costings of how much money you've saved. And one big thing we wanted to add within sort of this goals element was warning messages. So when the drop down function for picking a substance within your goal setting, particular substances, there's serious risks if there's a dependency. So we wanted to be able to navigate the young people to that appropriate platform on the app, so they're aware of those risks if they're setting this substance as their goal for maintaining a change. We then, again, from the young person consultation, when they were very much asking about harm reduction messages, information being relevant and up to date, we decided to add just over 20 substances onto the platform, ensuring it's relevant, and that these are the substances that are being regularly used amongst young people. And this is something that can be updated and changed with trends over time. And this was feedback from all young person services across the organisation, because we do see that substance use can slightly differ with trends in different areas. So with the app developers, we're very much hoping sort of we got this right now for the young people from their feedback, and was, you know, naturally a little bit nervous about presenting something what looks quite different to the first stage. So this then led to our second design. And we took this forward to the young people. So the second design had a change of colours, you know, borrowed pink, as very much highlighted by the young people, but it had background options on there. So if you wasn't a fan of the pink, you can change the pink. You know, we wanted to make it a lot more easier to navigate. And the feedback from young people was brilliant. It was wonderful for such a positive response. We had lots of compliments of colours. You know, the diary element, they shared that it was something really different and really easy to use, just having sort of that scaling of sort of scrolling from one side to the other of your screen, in addition to the selfie picture option that you can take for each day of that you're using that diary. They said that it was lovely that they could either take a selfie of themselves, or they could take a picture of the environment they're in, and that would show up as each of the days on their calendar then. Their feedback then on that goal tracking for the stop, pause, restart was such a positive impact, because we had many young people telling us that when there's been an occasion where they've had a slight glitch when it comes to their goal planning, that they're not starting from scratch. They're not taking those steps right back to the first stage, that they just need to continue maintaining and addressing what those triggers are. So this was a lovely response from young people, that we could input that pause element into it, and also the visual tool of they're seeing how much money they're saving, they're visualizing and can see how many days they have been substance free or reducing that substance as well. And then the drug information, then the young people shared that they really appreciated that we listened to them, in the sense of it was honest substance information on there, the inclusion of how to keep yourself safe if somebody is using a substance, alongside the risks there, and the confidentiality element of the app itself. So we don't ask for any personal information, we don't ask for any name, age or anything. So young people said they felt that it could almost be used more as more of a personal use as well, for keeping track of their journey. So that feedback on the whole design was great with young people, and you know, I remember sitting down, you know, feeling so happy and feeling so pleased. And then that realization dawned on me then of what's next, and it was very much, oh, we've got to launch the app now, isn't it? You know, we've had young people that have seen images and tools of the app, but they hadn't quite seen it digital yet. So there was lots of questions then of like, how do we do this? You know, how can we ensure young people are engaging and seeing the app, and then being aware that it's free and it's free to download. So it was very much right, we got to take this back to the young people about what this launch looks like then. So the app launch and the ideas. Prior to meeting with some young people, I met with Rob Barker, our communications lead, and we set out some ideas, and then implemented the young person consultation then. So their ideas, their designs, you know, focusing on how can we reach young people across, you know, a huge geographic area as well, and let them know that we have this app and what it looks like, very much who our target audience is even going to be, and you know, the ideas that was coming from these young people when it came to the launch ideas was brilliant. The ideas for different video reels, the slogans they were coming up with, you know, it was such wonderful, entertaining at times, evening sessions, having these consultations with young people. And one big thing they pointed out was they highlighted that we should create QR codes, you know, to inform people of the app, which I thought, this is great. There's QR codes everywhere now. So then an app campaign was developed then, in which led to things such as a countdown. So there was sort of like a little sneak peek of, you know, 5 days to go, and sort of it being kept a little bit secret, ready for that big launch. It was images of the app, highlighting that it's been developed by young people for young people. And then we had that agreement then with the young people of, right, when is the right time to be launching it, do you think? And the decision was the 3rd of September. And the reason being it for the 3rd of September is the return of education settings. So that was the opportunity where we could think big. You know, we could share this information across the schools we're working with, the colleges, the universities. We could input this information onto our PSC sessions. You know, we've all got our social media platforms across the organisation, and we could communicate this via external services as well then. So our youth clubs, you know, even down to environments such as A&E, GPs, and then very much relying on young people really to share the information, and going back to the word of mouth, really having young people tell each other, oh, have you seen this new app? So yes, so we were very excited for that. And then this then led to the 3rd of September came, and I'd like to share with you the short video that shows you the app. And then I'll just talk a little bit about how it's progressed since it's gone live. So I want to make sure I share my sound. So yes, so since the app has launched, within its first 4 weeks, we had over 400 downloads, and this is still continuing to increase with the ongoing promotion. We've had wonderful feedback from young people, from professionals, and how they find the app easy to navigate. They're loving the chat function and really highlighting that stop, pause, restart function of goals. Professionals have also shared that it's a great resource to use to provide up-to-date information, and also to highlight our approach of educating young people with regards to the use and effects of substances alongside the confidentiality element of it. So to finish this off then, our promotional material, again, was from ideas of young people from their consultations, and we wanted to implement that use of QR codes as well. So we were able to develop posters, making it easier for individuals to download and have instant access, in which again has been circulated across young person services. Moving forward, we hope to expand on elements of the app and include things such as games and links to resources. This is something, you know, we're incredibly proud of, and although at times, you know, it felt like it was really time consuming and took forever, it was worth it in having the young person views and their consultations and their input in the whole design and elements of how this app should work. So I just want to say a huge thank you to the young people who participated in developing this app for young people and by young people. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Angharad. Another brilliantly inspiring presentation there, and ideas on how young people have been involved in Barod services. Welcome back, Hannah and Rin. We're going to go straight into questions because we've got quite a few for each of you. So Hannah, I'll come to you first. Someone's asked, what have you noticed about how the service has changed since young people got much more involved in service design and delivery compared to previously?
I think just having young people feel much more part of the team. I think we've always, I know I work with young person services for a long time now, and it's always been a struggle to get young people in a group setting to engage in looking at anything that we've developed. It can be quite nerve-wracking, I guess, for young people to be involved in that. But with particularly since the YAS has been developed, we've been able to use our youth ambassadors to go out and kind of broach those young people that might be maybe a bit ambivalent to being involved, and then bring that back to us and hopefully encourage new young people to be involved in getting involved in service user design and delivery. So I just think it brings us all together much better as one big team, rather than feeling like just a team of workers going out all the time. I think it's really important that now we feel just a bigger part of young people and and workers as part of N-Gage, just all working together as one. So I think that's the main thing really, is that, yeah, just feels much more joined up approach now.
It sounds like great advice as well for anyone wanting to involve people more in their own services, is actually involve young people in recruiting other young people.
Because nobody wants to listen to me, you know, when they're 14, 15. So if we've got young people actually going out and you know, speaking to them about becoming more involved, I think that's much more credible.
Great, thanks, Hannah. There's one for you, Rin. What made you decide to be part of the YAS?
Well, I started off as a service user, and as I sort of came towards the end of that, I was finding that I still wanted to be a part of something and still wanted to be around that type of environment where I knew that if I wanted support, I could have support, or I could go and ask some questions, but also have a say in sort of how I could help others, and how, like, sort of we could impact how that help supports other people. So then being a part of the Youth Ambassador service was sort of my way of sitting there and going, maybe there are ways that we can help other people with our lived experience.
It's a real sense of giving back. Yeah, thank you, Rin. Angharad, there's one for you. When you went to young people initially, were they keen on the idea of an app, or did it require building their buy-in?
So the idea initially was there was a lot of suggestions from young people about an app, and that was very much because once you've installed an app, it's there. It's always on your phone. It's readily available. You can still, you know, having an app downloaded, you can still access a lot of the functions on an app without internet access and things like that. So, you know, that feedback, it very much came from a lot of young people. You know, from the very early stages, before we even looked at sort of expanding into an app development as a young person and a substance use organisation.
Brilliant, that's good to know as well. And there is another question for you, Angharad, around, it's very linked to that one. Is there scope of opening the app up to adults in the future as well, to be used in a similar way?
I believe there are conversations happening about an adult focused app. Something I can say in the meantime is, you know, the access to information with regards to substances is there for anyone. You know, our focus for this app was about targeting individuals that may not necessarily be known or open to services. You know, they may not be ready to come in to treatment services, so they've got access to some of those early stage tools that we would provide, and I think that's something that, you know, is available for everyone. But with regards to an adult, I would say watch this space.
Great, thanks, Angharad. Hannah, we actually have one here from a member of one of our commissioning teams, Hannah Phillips. So she said, in the manifesto, you said you will call on APBs and Welsh Government to do more to involve children and young people in service design and delivery. She's asking, what is needed for this, and what can the APB and Welsh Government do to support it?
I think, you know, it differs obviously from area to area with how things are fed back and looked at, but I think it's a lot more just about kind of doing, I suppose, what we're doing with young people is a lot more consultation on the ground. I think sometimes it can feel quite detached between, you know, Welsh Government, APBs, and then frontline workers, management, young people, lots of different layers. And I think it, you know, I think depending, like I said, where you are area wise, some areas are better than others of consulting and actually coming and meeting with young people. But I think there's always more that we can do. I think, you know, coming and sitting with people like our actually finding out, on the ground kind of before, they come out for commissioning, what young people actually do want from services. So just a bit more communication from us as well, I think, as services and organisations, and just a bit more joined up working to be able to do that, I think.
Thanks, Anne. I just said thank you to both of the Hannahs. Thank you for your question and for your answer. Angharad, we've just seen another one come in regarding the app. So someone is asking, can anyone use the app, or do they have to be in a Barod service?
So no, they don't have to be within a Barod service. Absolutely anybody can download the app. One thing I would suggest is if you are someone who is working with young people, I think it's a really good tool as a professional to download that app as well, because if there ever comes a time where you're having a conversation with a young person, they may be wanting to be referred into service, or they're not quite ready, you have some of those tools and some awareness of the effects and risk some substances pose, and you can have that conversation with some of those young people as well then. So it's for anyone. The aim is for young people, but I think as professionals it's great for them to be aware of the information that is readily available on the app.
Lovely. Thanks, Angharad. We have actually run out of time. For some of the other questions in the chat, we will ask our speakers to make any comment on them so you can see the answers to your questions if they haven't been answered here. So thank you all very much for attending our webinar today. We really look forward to seeing you and other colleagues at our next webinar, which will be held on Monday, the 8th of December. And we will be talking about the Equality Act alcohol exclusion cause at that one. And you can access the link to book on to this event in the chat or via our website. A huge thank you to Hannah, Rin and Angharad for an inspiring webinar today. Thank you also to the webinar team behind the scenes for always bringing the webinar to life. And thank you all for your brilliant questions and attendance. Have a great rest of the day, everyone.
If you have been affected by any of the issues discussed in today's podcast, please reach out. Barod have a free and confidential live web chat service that is available 7 days a week on our website at barod.cymru, where you can chat to a trained support worker. Alternatively, you can contact Wales's National Drug and Alcohol Helpline, Dan 24/7, either by calling 0808 808 2234 or text Dan to 81066.